The history of the European Union in 3 minutes. The first thing to unify Europe was tectonic shift. Then, when humans finally evolved, much of Europe was unified by the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Frankish Empire, and the Holy Roman Empire, which was like the Roman Empire, but a bit more pious. In fact, the patchwork of separate European states we know today is a relatively recent invention. The United Kingdom only became a United Kingdom in 1707. Modern Belgium and Italy came along later, and places like Slovakia and Croatia only popped up again in the 1990s, along with Latvia, Estonia, and the Spice Girls. But the main step towards reunifying Europe came after the devastating impact of the 2 world wars, which led to all sorts of new international agreements, borders, and structures. After World War II, Winston Churchill called for the creation of a United States of Europe to save it from infinite misery and final doom. The first big step towards this was the Schuman Declaration, a declaration declared by French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman. And what he declared was that because coal and steel were so vital for war, those industries in France and Germany should be linked together to make war not only unthinkable, but materially impossible. But he said it in French. This led to the European coal and steel community, also joined by Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. And then the same 6 countries signed the Treaty of Rome, establishing the European Economic Community, or EEC, though later it dropped an E and became the EC. The community established a common market for the free movement of goods, capital, services and people, and was so successful that others wanted in. The UK tried to join in 1963 and in 1967, but both times were blocked by France and General de Gaulle, who just said non. The UK were finally allowed to join in 1973, along with Denmark and Ireland, and in 1981, Greece was the word. As the community grew, it evolved. Belgium, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands and West Germany signed the Schengen Agreement in 1985, which began the process of removing border controls and making the free movement of people that bit freer. They also got branding, picking a flag, a motto and an anthem. And in 1986, Spain and Portugal joined, followed by the freshly reunified Germany in 1990, once the wall had come down and David Hasselhoff had left. Then in 1992, the big one, the Maastricht Treaty, creating the European Union and also the Euro, even if choosing a name took a bit longer, and despite the UK and Denmark holding tight to their own currencies. In the meantime, countries were joining faster than you can say fall of the Soviet bloc. The EU itself even won the Nobel Peace Prize, though probably fought over who got to keep it. So by the time the financial crisis arrived in 2008, the EU was locked together in a single currency with a massively increased membership. The start of the toughest years yet for the EU, with calls for even more reform. But thanks to EU rules on mobile roaming tariffs, at least those calls are cheaper to make. And there's certainly not a shortage of countries wanting to join, even while others may be looking for the exit.
Of all the continents, Europe is the second smallest. It's smaller than Asia, smaller than Africa, smaller than either North or South America, and just a little bigger than Australia.
Joan of Arc, an Joan of Arc, an heroic peasant girl, is called upon by God to save France from ruin.
In the 15th century, there was a strong belief that God could alter the course of history, especially in a place as devoutly Christian as the Kingdom of France.
Envoie quelqu'un pour sauver le royaume ou la chrétienté, suivant les cas.
Joan of Arc was raised in a pious family. At the age of 13, she begins hearing voices and has her first visions. She vows to remain a virgin for the rest of her life. Joan receives a divine command to help France in its fight against the English. The Archangel Michael, the angel of the Apocalypse who commonly visits Joan in her visions, appears as her messenger. The peasant girl searches out the French King Charles VII. He is demoralized. The French appear destined for defeat. Joan becomes his rock in the storm. King Charles summons France's foremost theologians. They are to review the sincerity of Joan of Arc's faith. She withstands their scrutiny and becomes a commander in the French army. Joan of Arc leads France to numerous victories, but she wants more. Her goal is to reclaim Paris. Her plan fails, and King Charles ceases supporting her troops. From that point on, Joan of Arc is left to fight a hopeless battle. The outcome is a foregone conclusion. The French army suffers a devastating defeat. The Burgundians take Joan of Arc prisoner. They then sell her to the English in exchange for a ransom. This is a huge triumph for the enemy.
The English found it absolutely insufferable that a young girl was leading an army against them. And what's more, she was victorious against the English army. There was only one explanation. She had been sent by the devil. The only way to dispose of her was to burn her at the stake.
Afraid of the pyre, Joan of Arc recanted, agreeing not to bear arms. But 3 days later, her sentence was reinstated. The Maid of Orleans bravely accepts her fate. Charles VII would later rehabilitate